Hey, third grade. I've been thinking about you the last couple days, and I decided every day I was going to post a chapter of a read aloud book for you. And this is the book I chose, Hamster-saurus Rex. Here we go, chapter 1. Certain class pets will go down in legend. We've all heard of the duck from Marnieville Elementary that could use an electric pencil sharpener. And of course, there was Bert, the chameleon that Mrs. Simonson's fourth grade all swore they saw go plaid one time. Some kids at my cousin's school still whisper of a goldfish that could see 15 minutes into the future, but was cursed with the inability to tell anyone what it had learned because, it was a goldfish. Impressive as these creatures are, none of them can compare to Hamster-saurus Rex. He was a giant among rodents, a folk hero for all time. He was the pride of Mr. Copeland's sixth grade class. Most of all, he was my friend. Nobody knew where Hammy Rex came from. All we knew is that when we returned to school after Columbus Day, there was a hamster cage in the corner. Mr. Copeland seemed as surprised as anybody. Well, kids, I guess we have a hamster now, he said with a shrug. Nobody at this school ever tells me anything. I wish this hamster was a turtle, said Tina Gomez. Do you think the pet shop has an exchange policy? I bet we could return him and get like 150 snails, said Wilbur Weber. Wilbur had lots of snails at home. I guess it wasn't enough. I looked into the cage. At first glance, he appeared to be a normal hamster. Orange fur, pink nose, black beady eyes. Then he opened his mouth and made a weird growling noise. The other kids were startled. Even though he was the size of a muffin, this hamster wasn't afraid of anything. I think the new hamster's cool, I said, drawing a quick sketch of the little guy in my notebook. Nah, I think it's done, said Beefer Vanderkoff, squinting at me from across the room. His real name is Kiefer, but only teachers call him that. Stow it, Beefer, said Dylan D'Amato. She's my best friend, also pretty fearless. Kids, enough, said Mr. Copeland, frowning. Martha Cherry raised her hand. Arnold, may I address the class, please? She said. Everyone but Beefer rolled their eyes. Okay, Martha, said Mr. Copeland, but seriously, you have to call me Mr. Copeland, okay? We've been over this. She nodded and turned to face the rest of the class. Classmates, I just wanted to tell you that even though having a pet seems like it's all fun and games, in reality, it's a huge responsibility that you're probably not ready for. Why? Asked Dylan. Martha Cherie rubbed her the wrong way, like no one else. Because, Dylan, most of you are careless and, quite frankly, immature. I took an online quiz and it said my mental age is 45. So, caring for a hamster isn't like rocket science, said Dylan. You give it food and water every day and change the wood chips once a week. I think we can handle it. Well, my Uncle Tony happens to be a zoologist who specializes in hamsters, and he says it's much, much more complicated than that, said Martha with a smug look on her face. I just think it would be best if we were to pick someone, a person known for being very, very responsible, and assigned her the duty of caring for our beloved new class pet. Mr. Copeland sighed. Yeah, fine, Martha. You can be hamster monitor. She squealed with glee, an incredibly disturbing sound. Oh, thank you ever so much, Arn. Oh, I mean, Mr. Copeland. May I ask, will I be issued an official hamster monitor ID card and lanyard? No, said Mr. Copeland. I'll make my own, said Martha. Knock yourself out, said Mr. Copeland. Okay, who's ready to learn about some pilgrims? Excuse me, Mr. Copeland? Martha had her hand up again. Mr. Copeland rubbed his temples. Yes, Martha? I think the new hamster should have a name. Fine. As hamster monitor, I officially decree that the hamster's name is Toothbrush. This prompted a chorus of boos from the other kids. No, 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 said Caroline Moody. Let's call him Zolthrox the Destroyer. More boos. What about Shelley, said Wilbur Weber. Still more boos. Maybe Wilbur could only think up good names for snails. I think the hamster should be called Martha Jr., said Beaver. The boos stopped. Everyone stared at him in silence. I mean, I don't know. Whatever, he said. Man, everybody shut up. Suddenly, the perfect name came to me in a flash. I didn't dare speak up again for fear of provoking Beaver further. Instead, I wrote it on a scrap of paper and handed it to Dylan while Mr. Copeland wasn't looking. Dylan read the note and nodded, satisfied. Look, we're calling the little dude Hamster-saurus Rex, she said to the class. End of discussion. They all stared at her now. Coming from me, the name would have sounded like been a hard sell, but most people actually liked Dylan. Just look at this tiny little T-Rex arms, Dylan added with a shrug, like it was obvious. The class did look. Everyone agreed that his arms were indeed very tiny. You want to see the picture? There we go. There he is. Pretty cute. I don't know, Dylan, said Tina. I guess I see the arm thing, but how else is he like a dinosaur? He doesn't. The hamster growled again. That settled it. The 6th grade class hamster was officially Hamster-saurus Rex. Everybody seemed happy about it except Beaver. He must have been pretty attached to the name Martha Jr. Now, about those pilgrims, said Mr. Copeland. So way back in the 1600s, everybody wore these funny hats. Excuse me, Mr. Copeland. Once again, Martha had her hand up. Martha, said Mr. Copeland, gritting his teeth, we've already spent a lot of time talking about hamsters this morning. So if the sentence you are about to say contains the word hamster, I'm going to ask you not to say the sentence. All right? She nodded. Now, does the sentence you are about to say contain the word hamster? Martha shook her head. Okay, then, said Mr. Copeland. What is it? As official monitor of a specific type of rodent, I just wanted to tell you that specific type of rodent is gone. What? Said Mr. Copeland. Just look, said Martha. She pointed to the cage. Sure enough, it was empty. The little door swung open on its hinges. Well, kids, said Mr. Copeland, scratching his head, I guess we don't have a hamster anymore. Hey, so that's the end of chapter 1. I am really curious who is telling this story and what their name is. And I was wondering if you know somebody like Martha who wants to be the special pet monitor. All right. Chapter 2, tomorrow. Got it? Same place, same time? Take care.